Yes, Dante, how would you describe your preparation for this for ADCC this year? What was your camp like? What was kind of take us through your day-to-day regimen that you followed? Because obviously you went out there and performed incredibly. So what was the camp like?
Camp was pretty focused this go around rather than the last time. The last time I received an invite a little later on. It still gave me plenty of time to have a good training camp, so it didn't really affect me too much, but I didn't really have a whole lot to base anything off of because I never competed under ADCC rules before. Now going into this, I'd competed in, the past world championship in 2019, and I had experience in other matches that were ADCC rules. I just had more experience overall, and I knew I was getting an invite for 3 years because I got fourth in 2019. So the day after ADCC, it was already mentally prepared to be in 2021, and then it got moved to 2022. So this year I was able to really make a camp that was more along the lines of what you should be doing if you want to win ADCC. You know what I mean? With, a lot of attention on the scrimmage wrestling, a lot of attention on scrambles, a lot of attention on how to score, what's not points, what is points, everything like that. So it was just always training hard and always trying to be ready and physically prepared. Especially conditioning for ADCC, which I was in 2019, except this year I was a lot more dialed in, a lot more focused on the points and the aspects that I needed to win this tournament. So that's why my preparation was a little bit better this year.
Great, man. That's awesome. For people out there that are learning to compete, or that are first getting out there, maybe the first couple tournaments, and they're relatively new to the sport still, what pieces of preparation do you think are most important typically for just your run-of-the-mill tournaments?
If it's like your first tournament or whatever, you really don't really need to do anything. You can just enter it. You know what I mean? That's how a lot of people put too much emphasis, and I think instructors put too much pressure on tournaments too. I mean, it's not really that big of a deal if you lose in a jiu-jitsu tournament, you know what I mean? If aside from like freak accidents and things like that, if you just treat things intelligently, like you don't eat submissions or anything like that, you're probably not going to get hurt, you know what I mean? And you'll probably be fine, and you'll be able to go home and lead the rest of your weekend as normal. So I think a lot of people put a lot of stress about it, like, oh, you need to train more and you're representing a name of the gym, so you can't have a bad competition. And I've never really been a big believer of that, you know what I mean? Especially all my students, it's kind of weird to see, and it kind of takes them a little while to get used to, but I really don't care if they compete or not, you know what I mean? I love that people want to push themselves and they want to compete, but if people are like, do you think I'm ready to compete? I'm like, I don't know. Do you want to do it? Then do it. You know what I mean? Like, that's all there is to it. It's really not that big of a deal. That's how I got started. I finished like my first season of hockey, or not my first season, but I finished my season of hockey. I wasn't going into summer hockey that year. So, after March, you basically don't really have anything to do. So I was like, well, I'm just going to try this tournament out in 2 weeks. I've been training jiu-jitsu off and on for a year. Why don't I just try out a tournament? You know what I mean? Or 8 months at the time I think I was training, but I wasn't really training that much. I was kind of like out of the gym more than I was in it because I was playing sports. And you know what I mean? If you're playing hockey and that's where you got to get your rides to, it's hard to like double up and go to jiu-jitsu and everything like that. So once or twice a week I was training. I decided to enter a tournament. I had no speculation on how I was going to do. I didn't care if I won or lost. I just wanted to do it, and I did it, and I loved it, and I fell in love with it. You know what I mean? So I fell in love with jiu-jitsu when I first started, but I really fell in love with competing after that because I had no pressure around it. I didn't really care if it went well or it didn't go well. I just was kind of interested to see how it would go. So I think a little bit of that mindset would help a lot of people going into tournaments when they start, because whether they're told this or whether they just think it themselves, everybody thinks they have to be an ass kicker when they go into a tournament and they got to beat everybody, but it goes a lot deeper than that. And I think the funner we make it, the more accepting we make it, it's okay to just go out there and compete. I think that'll really help this next flight of new incoming jiu-jitsu people.